Hey folks, this video is just going to be the basics of the file system, what we call the file system in PHP. And it's basically how PHP controls files and directories. It's from chapter 11 in your text, but what I've done is gone through this list and gotten samples of each one. So the concept is anything that I've used before in my 25 years of however long I've been doing this, and honestly, I've been doing PHP really long time. But if there's a function that I haven't used, I didn't put it in here. Like there's some like returns available space on file system or disk partition. I've done CMSs, even file system CMSs, but nothing like that use that. So let's go in. You'll see a zip next to this video, and it's just called basics. And what we're going to do is go in there and take a look, and we're going to start on script 1. So this is my basics folder, and it's kind of fun to put it together because I was thinking about each project that I used that I used this. And to this day I continue to do PHP. And it's just funny that I still get hired to do it, and the companies that hire me are using PHP. And there's a little bit of a buzz about version 8 and how good it is, and it's a good time for PHP, despite what you may hear online or from other people. Anyway, this is base name. Now, base name's a really handy thing because it'll get the actual page that you're using. So what I'll do is when we look at the code, and it's going to be simple lines of code. With you guys, with these classes, generally I have to work more on logic and approach than I do on the actual functionality. But I would say when you're looking for something like, I think, what would you Google? Because it's not like you're going to memorize this stuff. But you might say something like PHP get root page name in path, and that it might be something like that you get, and this is the root directory path, but you want the root page name. And sometimes I'll look like this and pretend I'm a student and go, well, how did we find this, and how did I find it the first time? Believe me, no one taught me this. I was just kind of doing projects when I was doing this stuff, but you'll see that it's going to be tough. Like you don't see what it is. So you might go to php.net, right? And you might want to do get script name. And I think when I first learned this thing, I was using PHP self, and I wanted to get that link without the pathway. So, or it might have been document root, where it was like a whole path, kind of like this, where it was like, when we go to, I don't have my FileZilla up, but when we go to a website and we have TPN, you might see something like home public _ HTML. If you have a public server, you know what I'm talking about, and then it might be test.php. But I would need this. And so base name gets you that. And come to find out that I started doing it a lot. And after that, I found out that base name actually can remove extensions off it. It's one of the arguments it takes. So it takes this second argument. You could throw an extension name on there, and anything that is an extension could be removed. So this is home.php, which is the base name of that, and home is the path without the PHP. So base name's a big one. It's weird because it's hard to explain a use case for it, but it's one of those ones I use a lot, especially if you're like doing analytics and you want to get the page that someone visited, but you're getting the entire route and you just want the page. That's one use case. This next script is chmod, which means change modification permissions. And if you were a shell scripting person or use terminal or command prompt, this is the same command. And there's going to be a few things like mkdir, which is the same command in shell scripting. But what we can do with this is cite the file. So this would be wherever the file is in reference to the script. If it were like in an uploads folder, you might have something like this, but we can give it a permission. So the way permissions work, it's 3 digits. Here it's as an octal, what they call an octal, and I'll give you how to format that. But 600 is the read and write for the owner, nothing for anybody else. The owner is the main login, the administrator of the website. Read and write for the owner and read for everybody else. That's for users of the website. So this is what most files are. Most files are 644. I'm going to go into FileZilla real quick and give you a kind of a taste of it in case you haven't had any experience with this. It'll just take a minute. I don't want to skip over this because it's an important part of PHP. But I'll tell you, the way to get good at this is just do project after project after project. And let's see, I have 3 projects working right now, and all 3 are using PHP. So we go into domains, because this is my, there's the Portfolio Shell website, public underscore HTML. I'm just going to find any old script or any old folder. I'm going to find a okay, here's PayPal HTML. And if I right click, you'll see file permissions. And here's the 644 that I was talking about, where the administrator can do whatever he wants and write, read and write. Execution is not a priority here because it's just an HTML document. But, the public, the users can't write to it, and neither can the group. The group is actually people who have FTP connections in their own subdomains. But as an administrator, I can do it. No one else can. That's the big one. But that's how you set permissions with PHP. You click those little check boxes. All right, back to our code here, because I want to show you what just happened. If we go to the second script, chmod, we are going to see 33248. And that is a very odd file permission, right? But if you want to format that, the function file perms will find their permissions and add an octal in front of it, and it will sprint format -4 over. So basically, what we're doing is getting the file perms. This is print format, but the sprintf is a little bit of a different situation because it takes 3 arguments. And then the substring is from the first argument here. So this is the format for that. And then -4 is from the file permissions over. So if you look at this, the file perms, we go to the end and we work 4 back. And that's what we're grabbing. So sprintf is an interesting thing. Most people use printf. I want to confront this because you might see it in code. It's generally not something that you would use too frequently. You're returning a formatted string, but it's really used for octals mostly. Let's see. Yeah, see the specifiers in float. So the specifiers for each thing, a string is an S, and that's where we get the value of S for file perms. I don't want to get too off on a tangent. This is not something you use a lot. I wanted to introduce this because let's say you have a PHP script that doesn't work. And we'll find one in here somewhere. So like, let's say I have isset, a little demo here, right? Or ipn.php. And I go to file permissions and I make them 000, right? And then I go to that web address, something like mm214.com, ipn.php. Nothing works. But if I go into that code again, I can re-add those permissions, which is, here's the I didn't really do anything with that there. I'll just echo hello so you get an idea. Echo hello. There's your PHP right there. But let's go up, hit yes. And now when I do IPN, you'll see hello. So that really shouldn't work if it has the permissions off. Oh yeah, it didn't. It had 600, which is fine. But this is 00. Hopefully, that doesn't seem to be allowing me. And that could be my server settings, because I actually just recently moved to a new server, and they might have it turned off where you can't change it. But generally, if the settings are at 0, they would not work. So that's interesting. My new server is quite crazy for that stuff. Okay, so the next script is clear stat cache. And let's go to here. Here it is. This is if we have file size for a file, right? That'll give us the number of bits. And we open it for appending. Then truncate the file at the 100th character and close the file. We should see, after we clear the stat cache, a new version of the file size. And that's what the point of this slide is. So what I'm going to do is go to localhost, and I'm going to go to 3, which is clear stat cache. And you can see that the first file size of text.txt is 0, but then we went and appended. We opened for appending. Hold on a sec here. And then we truncated it to its 100 characters. And then close the file. So we can edit a file if we open it for appending. There's 3 different elements that fopen takes. There's W, which writes the file over completely. There's A, which is append, and there's R, which is read, and there's RB, which is read binary. But we truncated it, and then we cleared the stat cache and echoed the file size of test.txt. This applies to actually your homework for week 11, where we're doing the newsletter subscription and we're writing emails to a file. And if we clear the stat cache, let's say we write to something and want to do more work with the file, we would clear the stat cache every time we altered the file, and we'd have that value, an accurate value of what we're dealing with. So it literally clears the server cache so that you're working on any text file. It'll read exactly what the latest version of the text file is. All right, now let's move forward to some more functional things. Copy will take a file and not only copy it to a place where you want it to go, but it'll change the name. So if I copy source.txt to target, we can see it go into that other area. So let me get rid of this. / hello 1 basic. Interesting. Let's go to localhost here. There we go, 1 basics. Thank you. So we just created that. It returns a 1, by the way. That's why when we echo it, 1 means it went down, it actually happened. But now we see target txt has the exact same values as source. So just so you know, if you go back to the 4, you could always take source.txt and put it in an images and just change the name like this. Say, I moved. And watch what happens. It's pretty cool. It went down. Now we go to images and we see I moved.txt in there. So copy is a really handy thing. I use it a lot for like uploads. We've been using move uploaded file, but sometimes you want to keep it in a temp directory, so you might just keep it, use copy and have double copies for it. I do that with digital downloads a lot. I'll keep a file that's downloadable. So let's say you're protecting a digital download file for an e-commerce site, right? Someone's selling MP3s or songs, something like that. And you might want to copy the MP3 real quick and put it in the directory they can download, and then unlink it, which would delete it after. And you could do that at a given time, unlink something at a given time after they download it. So uh, speaking of which, this is unlink. So if you see source.txt is here. If I go to number 5, unlink, there it goes, it disappeared. So unlink will remove a file. Now, here's the fun thing. You can recursively loop around directories and files. And I haven't had to do this in a while, but for clients that didn't pay me, I would put keys in the URL in the script if they didn't pay me, and I could say something like Skiller get here. Excuse me, my battery is draining rapidly. If I do get pay me like this, and pay me equals, I could stick this code in somewhere, and if they didn't pay me, I would put this in the URL window. And if pay me, equals Chris, something like that, then we could just go down here like this. And here, we'll try it on target.txt since we just copied that. But if pay me equals Chris, so let's do target, sorry, non-functional with my, so let's say it's 6 months, guy hasn't paid yet. I do pay me equals Chris, and you can watch target go away. Pretty simple logic, but what I would do is do it in a recursive loop so it would take down the whole site. Something to do when you don't get paid. But that actually had been done by someone, and they got sued by the client. And even though the client never paid them, the court sided with the client because of the lost income of the people who worked for the company. And it wasn't the people whose fault it was, which is pretty interesting stuff there. All right, this, my friends, is on the homework. So I have emails down here. These are all my emails. I worked for 3 different colleges over at UCSD. Yeah, this covers 2 of them. But if you have an email subscription, like in the homework, guess what you can do? You can go in there like this, go into basics, and click on, what are we doing here? File, right? Yeah, file. I didn't do fclose. I bumped over it. But these are the four emails, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you were to loop around this, you could send a newsletter to all 4 of these people. So there's a hint for your homework. And that, again, is file, because file will read in each line into your script, and then you could loop around that as an array. Now let's track back to number 6. This is fclose. And what we're doing here is opening up source.txt for reading. And we're outputting it, but watch, it's going to give a, this is the expected output of this. Failed to open stream. Oh, yeah, that's because I deleted it. We'll do test.txt, which is all binary, but it's fine. We'll do test. That's because I was messing around with unlink like a silly goose. Okay, so this is resource ID 3 because we'd have to loop around this to get the data outputted. But fclose, the reason I put this here is everything that's fopened is fclosed. Honestly, if you wanted to read a file, we would use this, which is file get contents. So if we look at this, we're echoing out file get contents, excuse me. And you see there's nothing there, but there really is. If I were going to go to email.txt, this is a pretty interesting function. Wait, it's emails, excuse me. I'm sorry. Let's hit refresh. There you go. So file gets contents, gets everything from that file and outputs it. Here's one. Watch this. If I do HTTPS, see, now that's a TTPS. That's a secure file, right? Watch this. If I do that I have CNN. So a lot of servers aren't protecting against this, but this is just the map that we're getting. It depends on what they guard against. That's the fresh content you can't get. So like I've been doing work for this company in Carlsbad right now, Intra-Ratio, and I was showing them this last week, where you can just do this and you can get their entire oh, you know what, it's .com, excuse me, and we'll remove the S, but they do nothing to protect against this, not like you should, but it's kind of interesting that you can get anyone's site, most anyone's site, based on this. I think that CNN might allow it if we just use the HTTP. But either way, it's an interesting thing. If you point this toward any site, any big site, usually works. Like, let's say your company has an internet filter, and you wanted to get around that filter, you could pop this in. Yeah, it gets the whole entire site. I used to work for these guys. It was one of my first internet jobs. But they get, millions and millions of views a day. So I'm going to pause this as the part 1 of the basics, and start with a second video where we'll get to 9 all the way through 18.